Princess Lyria sat alone on the broken stone steps outside the abandoned outpost. The wind was dry and heavy with dust. Every time she breathed, her throat burned. The sky above the barren moon was pale gray, always silent, without clouds or stars. It was a place where nothing grew. A place for forgotten things. A place for discarded people. Lyria pulled the worn fabric of her old royal cloak tighter around her shoulders. It was the last thing she had left from her former life. Once she had walked through golden halls with guards on both sides. Servants had bowed their heads when she passed. Her father, the emperor of the Varnak Empire, had introduced her to the council as his proud daughter. That pride ended the moment the medical tests declared she was barren. A Varnak princess without the ability to produce heirs was considered useless. Her family did not shout. They did not cry. They simply stopped looking at her. That was worse than hatred. It was like she had turned invisible. One morning, without warning, they placed her in a ship, flew her to this forgotten moon, and left. They did not even give her a farewell word. Just a half-broken building, a crate of ration packs, and silence. That was 1 year ago. At first, she had waited. She had believed maybe her father would change his mind. Maybe her mother would visit. Maybe her sister would send a message. But no ship ever came. No voice ever called her name. She was not only abandoned, she was erased. She survived not because she still had hope, but because pride would not let her die easily. Every morning she fixed parts of the outpost. She repaired the oxygen regulator with broken metal scraps. She learned how to open ration packs carefully, so no food was wasted. She collected moisture from air vents to drink. She trained with a dull spear to keep her body strong. She did everything with cold calm, never allowing herself to collapse, but sometimes, when the wind howled through the metal pipes at night, she pressed her forehead against the wall and whispered, "Why was I born if only to be thrown away?" One afternoon, while she was checking the cracked solar panels, her ears caught a sound she had not heard in months. A ship engine. She froze. The sound was distant, but it grew louder. Her heart started beating faster. She looked to the horizon and saw a small object descending through the dusty sky. Not a Varnak ship. The shape was different, bulkier, human-made. Her first instinct was caution. Maybe it was a scavenger group. Maybe it was a pirate ship. Or worse, maybe her family had returned not to bring her back, but to remove her body completely. A corpse caused no political embarrassment. She ran inside the outpost and grabbed her spear. It was not sharp, but she held it like it was a royal blade. If someone came to kill her, she would not kneel. The human ship landed about 200 meters away. Steam hissed from its engines. The ramp opened slowly. A tall man in gray armor stepped out, holding a scanning device in one hand and a rifle in the other. He moved with alertness, scanning every direction, his helmet visor reflecting the dull sky. He was alone. Lyria narrowed her eyes. A human. She had seen humans only during political meetings in her childhood. They were considered stubborn but honorable. Still, she did not trust anyone. She stood at the entrance of the outpost, spear in hand, watching him approach. When he noticed her, he stopped. For a long moment they stared at each other, both silent. The man slowly raised one hand, not holding the gun, showing he meant no harm. He removed his helmet, revealing short brown hair, tired eyes, and skin slightly burned by sun and time. His voice was low but calm. "I'm not here to fight." Lyria kept her spear pointed at him. "Then leave." He looked around at the broken building behind her, then back at her face. "You're alone here? That is not your concern." He nodded slowly. "You're Varnak, and you are human." "Name's Damon," he said. She did not give her name back. He looked at the damaged power system near the entrance. "Your oxygen filters are failing. That is also not your concern." But he placed his helmet under his arm and crouched near the machine as if he did not hear her. He examined the wires. "You're losing 20% efficiency every hour. Another month and this thing will shut down." Lyria tightened her grip on her spear. "Do not touch my equipment." He glanced up at her. His voice remained steady. "You'll die if it breaks." She lifted the spear higher. "I have been dying since the day I was born. Leave." He studied her for a moment. Instead of standing or arguing, he simply turned back to the machine and continued checking it. Lyria stared. No one had ever ignored her threats before. "You do not listen," she said sharply. "Bad habit." he replied, opening his toolkit. She walked closer. Why are you doing this? He did not look at her directly. Because you're alive and this thing is killing your air. Her chest tightened unexpectedly. She stood there silently, unsure what to do. Part of her wanted to stop him. Another part wanted to watch him keep going. Without asking, Damon spent the next 2 hours repairing her broken regulator. He melted wires with a portable tool and replaced filters from his ship's supplies. Lyria stood nearby, arms crossed, pretending she did not care. But her heart was strangely warm. No one had worked for her since she was cast out. No one had even spoken to her with such simple honesty. When he finished, the machine hummed with stronger rhythm. Damon wiped sweat from his forehead and stood up. It's stable now, he said. You'll get cleaner air. Lyria opened her mouth, searching for the right words. She refused to say thank you. Instead, she said, you should leave before night. Temperatures drop, he nodded. I'll camp near my ship. He started walking away without waiting for gratitude. She watched him go. After a few steps, she called out, Human. He turned. She hesitated. The single word almost tasted bitter on her tongue. What is your purpose here? My ship crashed 6 kilometers from here. I was looking for shelter and supplies. Then take what you need and go. I already found what I needed, he said, placing his helmet back on. And what is that? A reason to stay alive. Her eyes widened slightly. He did not wait for her reaction. He simply walked away. That night, Lyria could not sleep. She sat near the wall thinking about the strange human. He was different from Varnak warriors. He did not demand obedience. He did not ask who she was. He did not treat her like something broken. The next morning, she stepped outside and saw Damon cooking something over a small heat stove near his ship. He glanced up. Want some? She frowned. What is it? Dried meat. Humankind. She stared at it suspiciously. I do not eat dead animals, he shrugged. Your loss. She turned to leave but stopped halfway. I could share ration paste, she said. He grinned slightly. Deal. They sat on opposite sides of a rock, sharing 2 different kinds of terrible food. He talked about his squad, how they were forced to retreat after a battle. His ship had malfunctioned during escape. He had been alone for 2 weeks before finding her outpost. When he asked about her past, she went silent. He didn't push. He simply said, Some things are hard to speak. Say it when you're ready, or don't. I won't force it. That simple respect struck her harder than any cruel word her family had ever spoken. Over the next few days, Damon repaired more parts of the outpost. He cleared debris from the roof and fixed leaking pipes. Lyria helped quietly, passing tools, holding wires, or lifting panels without being asked. They spoke little, but their silence was not cold. It was calm. It was comfortable. Sometimes he made jokes. Sometimes she almost smiled. One evening, as the sky turned darker than usual, Damon was fixing a wind sensor near the top of the building. Lyria stood below, watching. You're good at this, she said. He chuckled. I grew up fixing broken things. Why? No one else would. She thought about that. You serve your people even when they do not serve you. He glanced down. Isn't that what loyalty is? She looked away. Not in my empire. Maybe your empire is wrong. She did not answer. Later that night, while Damon slept near his ship, Lyria sat alone outside, staring at the horizon. For the first time in a long while, she whispered her own name to herself softly. Lyria. She was not speaking to herself. She was testing the feeling of being known again. The next day, while Damon was installing a new signal booster, Lyria collected spare metal parts. She decided to make a stronger spear, not because she feared Damon, but because she suddenly wanted to protect something again. She watched Damon from a distance. He was focused, determined, steady. Humans were shorter-lived than Varnak, yet he carried more willpower than many royal generals she had met. He was a soldier without an army, a protector without someone to protect, until now. Hours passed peacefully, then the sky roared. Lyria's head snapped upward. A large ship appeared from the clouds, descending fast. Varnak symbols were carved on its side, royal symbols. Her blood froze. Her family had returned. Not to save her. She knew better. They had come to erase her completely. Damon shouted from the roof, Lyria, get inside. She did not move. Her hands trembled slightly, but her spine stayed straight. She would not hide. The ship landed with a heavy thud. Dust clouds rose. The ramp opened. Armed Varnak soldiers marched out in dark blue armor. The lead officer stepped forward and spoke in cold voice. "Former Princess Lyria of House Varnak, by command of the Emperor, your existence is to be terminated." Lyria lowered her gaze for a moment. Her pride told her to face death without fear. She took one step forward, ready to kneel, ready to end this long humiliation. But before her knees touched the... Evan had spent 3 long years on Outpost 12, a lonely medical station built on a barren moon that circled a forgotten planet. It was one of those places where nobody wanted to be posted, not because it was dangerous, but because it was silent. No city lights, no friendly neighbors, no daily traffic, only the wind that blew red dust across the rocky ground, and the occasional distant echo of shifting metal from the abandoned mining fields nearby. His days were usually slow. Sometimes he treated minor injuries from passing traders. Sometimes he handled food poisoning or dehydration cases from pilots who thought energy drinks counted as meals. But most of the time, Evan sat at his desk, cleaned his equipment for the 50th time, and wondered why he ever agreed to be here. Peace, he had told himself when applying. He wanted peace after years of chaos and emergency war zones. He was tired of seeing explosions, tired of patching up soldiers who screamed in pain, tired of losing people he tried to save. Outpost 12 was supposed to be quiet. It was quiet, but quiet and lonely were not the same. Some nights Evan would lie on his bunk and listen to old recordings of crowded city streets, just to remember what life used to sound like. He even caught himself talking to his tools sometimes. "How's it going, scanner?" he muttered once while polishing it. The scanner did not respond, obviously, but Evan still nodded like it had agreed. That was the state of his social life, and then everything changed in one loud crash. It was late at night, or whatever counted as night on a moon that barely rotated. Evan was halfway through reheating a tasteless meal pack when the entire station shook. A roaring boom echoed through the metal walls, rattling shelves and knocking a box of bandages to the floor. Evan froze for 1 second, then rushed to the screen connected to the station's external scanners. A massive energy spike had been detected 2 kilometers east of the facility. Something large had crash-landed. Maybe a transport ship, maybe a meteor, maybe something worse. The standard protocol was simple. Wait, send a report to command and do nothing until backup arrived. Evan stared at the blinking red alert. He thought about waiting like he was supposed to. Then he remembered the screaming soldiers he could not reach in time in past battles. He grabbed his med kit, strapped it across his shoulder, and ran out the door. The wind hit him hard, cold and sharp. Dust swirled around his boots as he climbed onto the rover parked beside the station. He powered it on and sped toward the crash site. The landscape blurred by, glowing faintly under the dull light of distant stars. His hands tightened on the steering controls as he saw black smoke rising ahead. As he neared the crash, he slowed down. A sleek, dark purple ship lay half buried in the ground, smoke pouring from its shattered side. Evan's stomach tightened. The ship design was unmistakable. Krell Dominion, a warrior alien race known for their strength, pride, and dislike of humans. He knew the smart choice would be to turn around, but he also knew someone in that wreck might be dying. His duty was to save lives, not just friendly lives, all lives. He parked the rover and approached carefully, hands raised to show he carried medical gear, not weapons. The ship's entry door had melted. He climbed through the twisted opening and walked into the dim interior. Sparks crackled from broken wires. Something metal groaned. The air smelled of burning metal and ozone.
"Hello?"
Evan called out, no answer. His boots crunched on debris as he stepped deeper into the wreck. And then he saw her. A figure slumped against a wall wearing damaged armor with the crest of the Krell royal family engraved on the chest plate. Evan's heartbeat quickened. Royalty, that complicated things. But he focused on the important detail: she was bleeding. The alien woman had long silver hair stained with dirt and blood. Her skin was a pale lavender tone, and faint glowing lines ran across her arms like natural markings. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Evan knelt beside her and scanned her vitals. Multiple fractures, deep cuts, internal bleeding. If he waited for backup, she would die. He opened his kit and started stabilizing her wounds. As he injected a coagulant into her arm, her eyes suddenly snapped open. Bright gold, sharp, angry. She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Human," she growled, voice weak but filled with fire. Touch me again and I will break you. Evan didn't flinch. If you were going to break me, you would have done it already. Now stop talking and let me save your life. She glared at him, stunned by his calm tone. Most humans trembled before her kind. This one sounded annoyed. I do not need your help, she hissed. You do, Evan replied, cleaning a gash on her side. Because you are currently leaking. She blinked, unsure if he was mocking her. Leaking? Bleeding, he corrected. Heavily. She tried lifting herself, but pain shot through her body and she almost collapsed again. Evan caught her shoulders gently. See, stay still. I'm not your enemy. Her golden eyes studied him closely like she was trying to understand why a human would help her. In her world, kindness was rare, and usually came with hidden motives. What is your name? She asked sharply. Evan, medic, you? Virella, she said with pride, even in her weakened state. Daughter of King Theros of the Krell Dominion. Evan paused. Royalty, huh? That explains the attitude. Her eye twitched. Was that an insult? Or a joke? She could not tell. You speak too casually, she grumbled. You're not my boss, he answered simply. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she let him continue. Evan worked quickly, setting her fractures, sealing wounds with regenerative gel, and injecting anti-shock meds. She winced a few times but did not complain. At one point, he noticed her watching him more than the treatment. Not with distrust, but curiosity. You are not afraid of me, she said slowly. Should I be? He asked. Yes, she replied without thinking. I am feared across worlds. Well, right now you are injured across my floor, he said. She blinked again. Was that humor? From a human treating her like a normal person instead of a dangerous royal, Evan bandaged her arm and sat back. All right. You're stable enough to move. I'm taking you to my outpost. No, Virella growled. I will not be transported by a human-like cargo. Fine, Evan said, standing. Stay here and bleed again. Your choice, he started walking away. Panic flashed in her chest. She could not survive another crash or another attack in this condition. Swallowing her pride, she muttered, Fine, but if you drop me, I will end you. Evan rolled his eyes. Noted. He lifted her carefully. She was heavier than she looked, but he managed to carry her to the rover and place her inside. During the ride back, she remained silent, staring at him. He drove steadily, ignoring her intense gaze. Finally, she spoke. Why did you save me? Because I'm a medic, he replied. That is not a reason, she said. Yes, it is, he answered simply. They reached the outpost. Evan carried her to the medical bay and set her on the bed. He hooked up monitors and continued treatment. She watched the clean environment, the organized tools, the calm human moving swiftly. Everything about him was efficient, gentle, strange. Hours passed. Virella's breathing steadied. Evan sat beside her, checking readings. She turned her head slightly. Human. What? Thank you. Evan looked at her. She was clearly uncomfortable saying it. He gave a small smile. Get some rest. She closed her eyes slowly. For the first time in days, she felt safe, not because of guards or shields, but because one stubborn human refused to let her die. She slept. Evan leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. His peace was over. He did not know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. Outside the station, distant lights appeared in the sky. Multiple ships, royal Krell vessels. They had found their princess, and they were not coming peacefully.